Hello, I'm Brian Kardon. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at InVision, and it's great to be with you all. And very excited about our topic today, which is all about AI and marketing. And I'm a marketing practitioner for a long time, and we've of course all seen how AI has touched so many things in our lives. And today we're going to be talking about specific examples of how artificial intelligence is being used in modern marketing organizations. First, a little bit about me. Um, I began my career at the bottom of this chart. After business school, I joined a strategy consulting firm called Braxton, which is part of Deloitte. Became a partner there in their consumer marketing and strategy practice. My clients were companies like Heinz and Campbell Soup and Ralph Lauren and Merck. And that was a great, exciting time where we started to see lots of digital transformation going on. And from there, being a partner, we had our first children were born, twins, and the life of a consulting partner is traveling all the time. So I was thrilled that I got a job offer to be a CMO at Reed Elsevier, about a $5 billion British Dutch company. They own things like LexisNexis, the large online database, Elsevier Science, which are subscription scientific journals, trade shows, a whole bunch of things. I was there for about 6 years. I joined Forrester Research as head of marketing and head of strategy. My first part of my career in software was with Eloqua Marketing Automation, and that was very exciting. It was a small company when I joined, about $15 million a year. We got up to about $100 million a year in about 4 years. We took it public and was acquired by Oracle. Lattice Engines is actually a company that does artificial intelligence for sales and marketing, and I was there for 4 years. It was subsequently bought by Dun & Bradstreet to really marry the data, heritage, and legacy and assets of Dun & Bradstreet with predictive analytics and artificial intelligence. And I've been at InVision now for a little over a year. Just a little bit about what InVision is. We're a digital product design platform. It allows companies around the world to build digital experiences for the customers. We have about 7 million people around the world using our platform. It includes 100% of the Fortune 100. So it's very large companies, but also mid-sized and small. Some of our accounts that we work with are companies that were born digital, like Uber and Netflix, and others, there was a really compelling reason to become digital companies like Goldman Sachs or Bank of America. One of the very interesting parts about our company is we were founded about 10 years ago, and we've always been a fully distributed company. We don't call it remote, we call it fully distributed. And we have 0 offices. We have over 600 employees, and we've never had offices anywhere in the world. And so part of the idea was we help our customers build digital experiences, and we wanted to see what it's like to run a company through digital experiences and not face-to-face experiences. And we have a lot of resources on our website that if you're thinking about, in a COVID world, about being fully distributed forever or a hybrid model, there's lots of things on our website that can help you through some of those issues. As I mentioned, we have 100% of the Fortune 100 and lots of different kinds of customers. Customers like Disney use us for all the applications for like Fast Track and Fast Lane and in-park experiences. They also use it for different kinds of applications in animation, customer experiences. In the case of some of these service providers like WPP or PwC, they use our platform on behalf of some of their customers to build digital experiences for their customers. And as a platform that allows people to build digital experience, we have the design piece where you can design experience. You can share that prototype with other people. Then you can send it over to your front-end developers who actually write code and build it out, and you can scale it across the organization and get other people to comment and talk about it and eventually ship that digital experience. So let's talk a little bit about AI. I very distinctly remember this moment. Do you remember the name of the player in the middle? That, of course, is Watson, who beat the player on the left, Ken Jennings, who I believe to this day is still the greatest human player. But for those of you who love Jeopardy, it's a game that is very hard to program. It's not as simple as um, searching for very objective information, like how many humans are on the Earth, or answers to equations or specific answers. It's a very challenging problem that IBM through Watson has been able to solve. When I went to business school, a lot of my colleagues wanted to be traders. And now we see that as a career that human beings don't do, but bots do. So the algorithmic trading that happens now, the algorithms don't just tell what trades to make, they actually execute the trades as well. And so the human beings are very much employed in this process, but they're writing the algorithms, and they're writing the code and using artificial intelligence to place optimal trades. Has anyone ever been in an autonomous car? These are a lot of fun to be in. Can be very frightening as well. I've been in an autonomous car a couple times, all in San Francisco, and it's just really fun. We went on the 405, so I remember leaving Google's offices and getting on a ramp and getting on the freeway there, and the car performed flawlessly. Curiously, when they brought the car to the East Coast, I live in Boston, and they brought it to the East Coast in January, and despite having hundreds of sensors and cameras, the car did not know what snow was. So when it came to a little wall of snow, a couple of inches, the car would stop, assuming that it was not a material that you could drive over and crush. So the car had to learn about different weather conditions, which I find really interesting. All of our lives have digital assistants, Alexa and Google and Siri, that are parts of our lives naturally. One of my favorite examples is there's a Sundar from Google, and he wants to make a haircut appointment. And it's not simply a matter of asking his digital assistant to put it on his calendar, but the digital assistant actually finds the hair salon, goes through his contacts, finds the hair salon that he always goes to, finds an available time, places the call, and uses a voice to actually interact with a human being at the hair salon and book an appointment, put it on his calendar, and confirm it. It's quite striking. There's the URL if you want to watch the YouTube, but it's a great example of humans and AI working together in a very effective way. And we, of course, we live in a world powered by AI in all sorts of areas like healthcare, insurance, credit cards, retail. It just seems to permeate almost every field. Today, we're going to talk about marketing and sales. So let me give you a couple of examples that we believed 5 or 10 years ago were going to be bright spots for artificial intelligence in marketing. The first area is smart lead routing. So lead routing is when you have a lead, and the idea was I'll route it to the rep who has demonstrated the highest ability to close a lead like that. So let's say it's a healthcare company that is a lead, and you know that Nancy has the highest close rate in the healthcare sector. So the leads would be routed to the rep there. The second example would be content creation. And can artificial intelligence identify the kinds of content that you should be creating on your website to drive engagement? What are the topics of most interest? And the third area that held a lot of promise was predictive email. As you might expect, we have lots and lots of history of when people open email, when they click through. Is there an optimal day and time of day that you send email? Not to everyone, but to a particular person based on their history. Can you build artificial intelligence that will yield higher open rates based on when people historically have opened emails? And so in all three cases, they have failed. So I'm going to, in a couple of minutes, give you some examples of things that have succeeded. And these have failed for a number of reasons. In most cases, it's lack of enough data to build a model that is robust enough that it would yield higher results than would happen randomly. So these three examples, while people believed 8 or 10 years ago were very promising, have not proven to be very helpful. So let me talk a little bit about what a lot of marketers say. They say that we're now modern marketers. I'm particularly talking about B2B, business to business marketers. But the data would suggest otherwise because the results are quite poor. So what's wrong here? MQL stands for Marketing Qualified Leads. So the marketing team spends a lot of time and gets a lead. Someone comes to the website, engages with some content. They pass that lead over to a BDR, a business development rep, or a sales development rep, an SDR. But in fact, from all the data across thousands of companies, we see that 94% of all, quote, marketing qualified leads will never close. And so if I was on the receiving end of those leads, I probably would not follow up very well because only 6% are going to close. That doesn't seem like a very healthy rate. And that rate has been pretty steady over the last 8 years. So we don't see a lot of improvement despite all these marketers being modern marketers. The second area in a related function is sales is that according to the data from Gartner and Serious Decisions and Forrester's, 52% of sales reps will not make quota. So here you are, do a lot of planning, and yet barely half of your reps hit the number that they're assigned. Huge failure. So both the MQLs are not converting at a healthy rate, most will never close, and just about half the reps are not hitting quota. So I'm going to suggest today that there's a better way to do things, sort of next-gen marketing. This era of modern marketing happened because of marketing automation and scaling. Things like Eloqua, where I worked, or Marketo, but there were new marketing tools that allow marketers to automate and scale. And there are additional tools now with AI that allows marketers to move from poor performance to extraordinary performance. I'm going to go into some detail about these. William Gibson, the writer, said famously that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. The point being that we're seeing some organizations applying AI very effectively in marketing, and other organizations either not applying it or spending a lot of time and cycles and effort and money, and it's had disastrous results. What we're seeing is that if you are very clear about what job you want to get done, there are very specific AI-powered tools that will allow you to get there. Let's talk about them. So the three examples today will be first, identifying target accounts. Most marketing and sales organizations have a huge universe of potential target accounts that they can go after. What if you could apply AI to identify the accounts most likely to buy from you? So it gets to use AI to disqualify tens of thousands of accounts that you should never call because they have a low conversion rate. So how would you do that? The second example is engaging with prospects at scale. So if you have lots of leads coming in and you only have, let's say, 20 or 30 humans to pick up the phone and follow up, you may not be able to follow up in a timely manner. So can you use bots? Just like Sundar used a bot to make that haircut appointment, can you use a bot to engage with a prospect, qualify and disqualify, and do a lot of the work that normally a human being would do. And the real advantage here is speed of time. Very often with leads, they don't come in an even way, but there could be a spike of leads. Let's say you run a big webinar and you get 10,000 leads one day, and you have a modest-sized team. They can't work through the leads in a timely manner. And we know that the decay rate is quite fast and steep for leads if you don't respond right away. And a third area is improving conversion rates. One area of marketing that's been particularly impressive is, believe it or not, direct mail. So everyone sort of leaned over to digital communications, but we're seeing that if you mail something to a prospect, you have a much higher chance of having a meeting with them, that they feel somehow beholden to you because you sent them a gift. And so I want to talk about AI gift giving. Is there a way to scale that rather than have all these sales reps trying to come up with a gift that's either personalized, or you just send everybody the same gift, which would have a low conversion rate? How do you personalize a gift at scale? So let's talk about these. The first question is, which accounts are most likely to buy from a given company? And so this is the target account question. And so what we've done is we've looked at, we've done a back test. We've looked at 2 years of account history to identify accounts where we've won and lost. And then we've appended a whole bunch of additional attributes to those accounts to build out a very robust data set. And so basically it's a multiple regression. We run a model to identify the most predictive attributes. And then we acquire accounts that have those attributes. So for example, if we find here that the tenure of the CIO, one thing we found in this example is that during the first 6 months of a new CIO, you have a much higher chance of having a meeting with them and a much higher conversion rate. Once a CIO has been in their job for more than 6 months, they're sort of locked and loaded and they're much less open to talking to new vendors. So we would append that information to the data set and we would look for other accounts like that. So in this particular case, we found out that there was an ideal company size. Companies that were smaller or larger had a low conversion rate. Certain industries, the existence of certain technology was predictive. So you may ask the question, well, how could I possibly know what technologies companies are using? There's lots of good ways to do that. One is scraping through their job descriptions. So if you scrape through a lot of the job descriptions, you'll see that what technology they're using. In this particular case, we found that multiple locations was much more predictive than a company that had one location, global presence, and some other on-premise systems. We identified almost 22,000 accounts. We assigned accounts to RSMs, regional sales managers. Then we got contacts at those 22,000 accounts, and we started running ads across all of those accounts and across all of those contacts. What's important is it's only 22,000 accounts. In this particular case, they started with an initial list of over 200,000 accounts. So they pared it way back, less than 10% of the accounts. That allows them to have much greater presence and more marketing there. The BDRs, a higher rate of calling target accounts. It began, when this program began, only 59%, and then it went up to 84%. And these are maps of where the target accounts are located. One of the great benefits of understanding where your most likely accounts are located is you can put local events in those regions. For example, if I get a call from a rep in Nashville that would say, Brian, could you run a dinner or a special program here in Nashville? I would look at these data and I'd say, I don't have enough target accounts in Nashville. Why don't we do it in another city? Let's do it in Houston, or let's do it in New Orleans, or let's do it in Miami. That has a much greater density of target accounts. And so what were the results of using artificial intelligence to identify target accounts? Well, the first area is cycle time. The non-target accounts were closing in 205 days, the target accounts in 140 days, a dramatic difference in cycle time. The deal sizes were also quite a bit larger, and the win rate from opportunity to close one was up quite a bit. And so these are very dramatic results. And the whole idea was to focus on fewer accounts that we knew, based on a back test of looking at historical data, were much more likely to close. And so the win rate we could have expected. The deal size is something that was a wonderful side benefit, and the sales cycle time was fairly predictable. So that was target accounts using predictive analytics. Let's talk about the second application of AI in marketing, engaging with prospects at scale. Sometimes marketers and salespeople have the curse of abundance. And what that means is they just have too many darn leads. And how do you decide which leads to follow up with? The example that I gave earlier is very relevant. Let's say you go to a trade show and you get several thousand leads. We know that responding to a lead promptly really matters to conversion rates. And very often human beings can't respond quite as quickly as artificial means. So our BDR team, the business development rep, this team is responsible for calling the leads, following up on the leads. The first challenge is lead surge. So if you have a big spike, a surge of leads, how do they follow up with very promptly? The consistency. So the BDRs are human beings, and we wanted them to have a cadence of 7 touches, 2 calls, and 5 emails, but we had no way to guarantee that. and we wanted fast follow-up. So here's some data that talks about dials and response. And you can see that if you respond within the first 5 minutes of someone indicating interest, you have a 10 times greater chances of engaging than after 10 minutes. And you can see even after 30 minutes, it falls. And so how do you do this very quickly? How do you respond to leads very quickly? Human beings can't do that necessarily. And so can you automate this in some way? And so we decided to use a bot, and her name is Natalie. We called her Natalie because our best BDRs at our company are women. And so we wanted to use a female name. And so Natalie really never needs time off. Natalie doesn't take vacations, no sick days. Natalie also can respond at 2 a.m. or 11 o'clock at night. And Natalie responds in a very consistent way. And so the BDRs were telling us they can't always respond as fast as they'd like to a prospect, but a bot can. And we've seen that bots, the intelligence you can program into the kinds of conversations you have really are as good as human interactions in email. Now, Natalie cannot do phone calls just yet. Only humans do that. We're working on that. But Natalie is extremely effective at sending out very effective emails, personalized emails, and even using things like Calendly to schedule appointments with a rep. So very high conversion rates and great engagement rates from Natalie the bot. The third area I want to talk about is gift giving, which we've seen to be quite effective at converting prospects. So trying to get a meeting with a C-level person is extremely hard these days. We have all sorts of blockers on our phones. We have ways to put into junk mail email from people we've never heard from before. So email has extremely low conversion rates. Cold calling is extremely difficult. One area that we've seen work pretty well is direct mail. We've seen, all of us have probably received a bottle of wine or some sort of generic gift with a note. What we've seen is that if the gift is highly personalized, the conversion rate and the receptivity of the recipient to engage with the sales rep is very high. So when I learned that personalized gifts, when we sent them out, were very effective, I asked our BDR team to start going into Facebook, to start looking at prospects' profiles to try to come up with a personalized gift. Now, the downside was, I remember a week after I talked to the BDR team about doing this, I walked over to where the BDRs were sitting, and they're all on Facebook all day, like writing down things they saw in pictures and profiles. And this person went to Notre Dame, sent him a Notre Dame, hat and a sweatshirt. So they're trying to personalize gifts. So how do you do this at scale? And there are tools to do this. I'm going to talk about one. This is one where if you give this tool, the tool's name is Alice, A-L-Y-C-E. If you give Alice a business email address, it will match that email address with the social profiles of that person. So if you give it my email address, there's me, Brian Kardon at InVision app. It'll find my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn accounts. It will then crawl through my profiles, and using its logic, its AI, it will make specific personalized gift recommendations. And they will actually send out the gift, or they'll send out a card that says a gift has been chosen for you. Click here with a PURL, a personalized URL. So here's what really happens is the bot goes out, and this is an actual picture on my Facebook account, and it sees that I have a new dog. And it rated this picture very high because of the number of likes that it had, and also that I'm with my 2 children, my sons. And so the bot found images that would suggest that maybe there ought to be a gift related to a new dog. And it also found this photo. I'm there with my son and my wife, and we're actually at an opera house. And the software was smart enough to know that it was an opera house, not a movie theater, based on those balconies, based on the architecture. So it knew that this was an opera house in Prague in the Czech Republic. And so it recommended 2 things that were personalized. One is a Bark Box, which is a monthly box of little treats and little toys for your dog. And the other was a coffee table book on the most beautiful opera houses of the world. So highly personalized gifts, and it was just wonderful. And as I said, Alice, the software actually will send out the gift automatically, or at least a card that says the gift has been chosen for you. And the conversion rates were quite high. So in our world, NBM means new business meetings, and that's a stage in our process. And we did a proof of concept where we had good conversion rates. And then we tweaked along the way a personalized note and some other things. And we had amazing results. So we sent about 2,000 gifts in this test, and we closed 8 deals. And the average deal size, the ASP, was $250,000 a year, so about $2 million in new bookings. And the cost of this whole program was only $25,000. So personalized gifts at scale. If you tried to send out 2,000 personalized gifts and you let human beings pick out the gifts, it could take thousands of hours for people to find all those gifts and personalize it. So this was extremely effective. So today we talked about 3 applications of AI in marketing. The first is target accounts using predictive analytics. The second is following up leads with a bot, Natalie. And a third is choosing gifts at scale for a direct mail using AI. So what's been the cumulative result? I've masked a little bit of this data in the vertical axis, but basically the sales rep productivity gains over this period that we applied all 3, they've more than doubled. So if the MRR, which is monthly recurring revenue goal, was $800,000 per rep, the quote actually went up to 1.6 million. It doubled based on the value of all of these tools. I want to sort of conclude with some thoughts about AI in marketing and what we're seeing across a range of organizations. And I think one of the conclusions, as William Gibson said, is that if you apply it the right way, you can have extremely beneficial results. But also for a lot of organizations, it's been a time sink. So you have to do it in a way where you know precisely what you're trying to get done. But I think AI is becoming something that we've seen through these decades. I'll give you a few examples. If you are old enough to remember the 1990s, every company in the world wanted to be a, quote, .com company. And of course, every company is now. And so the word .com sort of goes away, and every company is a digital company in some way, even companies making physical things. Think about GE making big engines. They have sensors on their engines. They have ways to track performance. Companies making drugs, they become digital companies as well as people order prescriptions. In the 2000s, every company wanted to be a cloud company. And so people were bragging that they were cloud first, they're a cloud company. And now that's pretty much gone away because every software company is a cloud company. The third area, and I remember this very clearly, was the era of big data. So obviously with social platforms and email and sort of back-end tools, we're seeing the era of big data. Billions of bits of data are now coming out, and every company was going to harness the power of big data. But big data is no longer something special, just like .com, cloud, and big data. It's become in the background and it's assumed. I think the same is true of artificial intelligence, that just like every company became a .com company and every company is putting their technology in the cloud and every company is using big data, every company in some way is an AI company as well. So I want to thank you all for being part of this presentation, and I hope to meet you soon in person once COVID's gone. Thank you very much.